All right, let's look at some TikTokers freak out about the economy.
People don't talk about it enough, but I'm gonna complain every single chance I get. We just left the drugstore and we spent $85 on Mucinex and cereal and milk. $85. I have no words. No words. Deutsche Bank.
I got a battery for my car and it was $240. And a few years ago it was $80.
Just released a report. Deutsche Bank just released a report that said that the US economy is basically being held together with toothpicks, scotch tape, and AI investments right now. And when the bubble pops, it is going to be devastating. AI has always been snake oil, at least in this current iteration. If you're in it, if you're in tech and you're working in it, you gotta get out. Even if for your own moral fortitude.
Well, I don't know about working jobs. Jobs are fake, but I think you should keep your AI job. As far as it being snake oil, value is subjective. Or you could say value is what reduces entropy, and then the price is supply and demand. And actual AI applications at the layer where they provide value are something we'll talk about. But yeah, let me preface the stream, give a little intro. We're in this very critical stage of the money system, the monetary system, which is having a distorted effect on the economy. We're in a final phase of it, and it's the perfect storm happening along with AI, the biggest invention or biggest industrial revolution catalyst ever, bigger than motors, oil, electricity was for muscle. This will be what the intelligence is for human brains. And I hope I can lower the temperature and maybe encourage you to use this as an opportunity to see what you can do differently, like our premise of what we thought a job was, of what we thought money was, now what we think AI is. Maybe this is a good time to reevaluate and not lose your mind, not scapegoat, but maybe provide something of value. And you will only ever gain and feel good about it by providing something that other people want. So maybe we'll talk about that. Speaking of which, real quick before we get back to the TikToks, what's important now? The What's Important Now system for $29 flat fee, $7, no commitment, no strings attached, free trial, and get that over here at winsystem.dev. But what it does at the core is take a recording, takes the microphone recording and the system audio, and whatever is coming in over the system will be recording here. Let's show how that works now. Here, play this person.
All right, so I make $15 an hour.
Okay. And then what you do, whenever you want to know something, you'll have this also loaded up with a prompt. And then when you ask the question, you will get some kind of a response. And so that's how that works. It's going to depend on your prompt. And also it's going to depend on your local files that only pertain to you, your conversations you've had, maybe your emails, whatever you want to put in here and you want the model to also consider. But let's get rid of that for now. So what's the point about this? Well, having that brains I talk about, replacing the muscle, you're going to want this assistant here. This assistant is going to be a PhD in everything. It's only going to get better. So not only could you help this yourself with this through training, through school, through whatever you're doing at your job, and this can also be used if you want to take this out and offer a bundle of other services with it. Maybe that's not you. It's not most of you, but you can definitely use this to rig up some other model calls. This would be more like a type 1 thinking, because it just gives the instant response from the model. And then if you want deeper chain of thought reasoning, that'd be more like system 2, deeper evaluation to whatever you're dealing with here in your workflow. So sorry if that sounds like a commercial, but I really do think that this is, for most of you, even these TikTokers, probably the best direction to go in the situation we're facing. But let's listen some more.
I have one son and I do not get child support. I'm going to tell you guys some of the ways that I'm saving money, because I get people constantly ask me, how are you making it? How are you making it? I'm going to be honest. Number one is credit card debt. It's not avoidable. Now, disclaimer, I make $15 an hour, but I did go to school for cosmetology. I do cut hair and I do get tips. So I'm throwing that out there. I get tips. Depends on the day. Today I got a $50 tip. That does not happen often. But anyways, normally I average like 40. I mean, it depends.
That doesn't really seem sustainable, the credit card part. Anyway,
All right.
No tax on tips anymore.
Number one, I do not get my hair and nails done. You can tell. I mean, you can tell. But it's just not in the budget. It's not a priority. All right, number two, no internet. I know that's a tough one. Subscriptions, haven't seen her. I do not have subscriptions to anything. I, in fact, closed my bank account down, so anything linked to it would be shut off, and I switched over to Chime.
Next.
I'm about to share a fact with you that you will represents how much we have let rich people keep. That's right. The national debt is not real.
It's real.
It is a collection of obligations that the federal government has that it can't pay. It has not paid because we let rich people keep more and more and more money. If we had taxed them throughout the last 60 years or so of our history, we would not have a massive federal debt. So when they talk about cutting programs and how, we need $800 billion in Medicaid cuts to partially offset the tax cuts that we just passed again, you motherfuckers, you remind yourself that the debt is not real. The debt is money we owe. We, all of us.
I don't know about that. Let me ask the AI, what is the account deficit, budget deficit? That's the word, annual budget deficit. Isn't it something like $2 trillion? Would it be possible to tax $2 trillion? Is the person talking over the system right? And there, I give it a minute, even though it is transcribing instantly. I give it a moment there just to make sure it gets that last one. Seems to be a matter of interpretation, perspective, potentially suggesting that its impact, the way it's managed, is not straightforward to address the conversation. Taxing the rich could have prevented the national debt. This is a debated topic among economists. Some argue higher taxes could increase government revenue, potentially reducing the deficit. Others contend that such measures could have negative economic consequences. Yeah, that's the thing. The big money out there tends to be in different shell companies, and they tend to hire the lawyers and accountants who are more clever. And then who ends up paying the taxes? Maybe the more productive people. But even still, if the government was taking in 5 trillion instead of 3 trillion, would they still spend more than they had? They've been spending more than they have for a very long time. And this is the structure of all these TikTok videos. The thing we see: I can't pay my rent. How are you all getting by? Groceries. The job doesn't pay enough. The reason is we are not in a situation where the rich are hoarding, even though they're getting more and more of the money. The thing, I hope I can run through it quickly, the structure of money when the economy was at its earliest phase. People are trading goods for goods. There might be a record of us using seashells as money even farther back before the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. But humans exchange, okay? People who produce exchange. You can get somebody to do what you want them to do by doing something for them that they want, or you can get them to do something by imposing a negative consequence. And we don't want to be that person imposing a negative consequence. That's not good for you. It's not good for them. It's not good to go on that way. Not sustainable, right? So that's what we should be aiming for. If we have a civilization at all, we should be exchanging good for good. And should someone in between be able to confiscate some of these goods, confiscate as a tax for what? What do we really need? We need police. We need fire response. Maybe we need an FAA. But even still, I think the most safe airline and safe air people can get the most business right. But let's not get caught in the weeds. Okay, just take that as a given. You can get into very complicated things about the economy. I would encourage you to not go down rabbit holes and intellectual gobbledygook about the economy. No two economists agree. So let's just agree, and you know this, whether you think the economy is good or bad. It's just a matter of, can you provide something that people want in exchange for things that you want and you need? And if you work for the government, what do we just say about people forcing people to do other things and whether that's good for you? Is that really how you want to live? That's between you and the universe. But this is how it starts. This is the ideal. People exchanging goods for goods. No middlemen. We all agree we hate the middleman, right? So what is this person exchanging the meat for the fish? What if this fish producer produces much more fish, starts his fish farm, he's producing so much fish, he can't buy more meat. He can't even buy more lawnmowers. He can't even buy more tools. He got no use for them. So what should he hold his surplus value in? How about gold? Because gold lasts longer. Gold is always in demand, and you cannot create more gold. If he and everybody else were to exchange their excess production in lawnmowers, then the lawnmower producer could produce more lawnmowers, and the supply of lawnmowers would flood the market. The demand would go down, and the value of those lawnmowers would be useless. But you can't do that with gold. You cannot produce more. At least getting it out of the ground is just about as much work as it is to produce more fish. In fact, it's probably even a little easier to produce fish than to go find gold and pull it out of the ground. So I'm getting to this problem with the money. The problem is that once you have this gold, then a neighboring country finds out you have gold. The people there have gold. They come in, they rob, they steal, they kill, they take the gold. That's what happened when Spain came to the American continent. And this is what has happened many times throughout history. So what do? You go to a bank, you give them your gold, and then the bank issues you a certificate for redemption. Then the government gets in on this because the government also needs money, and the government also issues. So they tend to be pretty intertwined, the banks and the governments. Then what happens? Eventually the banks notice that not everybody is coming back in to redeem their gold for those gold certificates. So they take the excess gold and they loan it out. They put that money to work, as they call it. So putting the money to work, if you've ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas movie, at the end everyone comes to try to get their money and he says, I don't have your money. It's in his house. It's in his business. This is the nice version of what happens. What really happens is they steal, they gamble on margin with that gold. Eventually the gold is gone. This always happens throughout history. So then you have these certificates out there, which are easier to exchange, easier to denominate than gold. Then you get the situation where the gold is not backing anything. It's in the hands of some international gold market, and then the banks or whoever are, or governments or the cabal, the in crowd has the gold. So then your situation is that the money is still being created, but nothing is backing it. You don't have, let's talk about the lawnmower situation, where you can't keep producing lawnmowers. Somebody else will produce lawnmowers, namely the person who's legally or has the means and the infrastructure to make more lawnmowers. They're going to make lawnmowers and flood the system, flood the market with lawnmowers. This happens with money. Always throughout history, the people with the money will create more of it and just flood the market. When that flood of money hits the market, the money is worth less and less. So we're in this final stage now. That's why the food costs more. That's why the housing costs more. And it's no coincidence that everything that the government heavily regulates, also housing, education, healthcare, what else does the government regulate and control? So these things become very expensive because then you have a built-in class of regulators, built-in troll takers, taking the troll. You cannot pass, you shall not pass and get your education without paying bureaucrats at the government, without paying administrators in healthcare. Believe it or not, this is just a fact of the situation. You can debate all day, which I said before, do not go down an economic wormhole. Economics are just exchanging goods for goods. And things get really complicated when you try to talk about who deserves what. Well, I don't know if you had siblings. Maybe one of your siblings did a lot of chores around the neighborhood and got paid. You could go to your parents and tell them that you deserve some of that money. And they would be bad parents if they enforced confiscating that money and giving it to you, or counterfeiting the money and giving you some because you came up with a story. So no stories. It's just work for work. So we're going in these cycles. And I hoped that you were able to follow. It's just the situation of what it is. We're in the end phase now where the government is very iffy whether it's going to be able to pay this back. the amount of debt that they're in. It's more than the productive amount of the whole economy, even though it really doesn't make sense to think about the entire economy as a thing. It's just individual units of people providing services. And that's what I would hope that you are still interested in doing, rain or shine, providing services. There's always a reason to find excuses and to lash out at people. And this is a particularly easy time or tempting time to do that.
Including the rich people. And we only owe it. The interest is stacking up because we let rich people keep more of the money.
Yeah, let's talk about the rich people. I don't let the rich people off the hook. Let's go back to this final phase where there's no gold, there's nothing constraining the supply of money. When you get to that end part of the monetary life cycle, which we went off the gold standard in 1971, and things immediately got worse and worse in terms of the number of lawyers, the number of bureaucrats, and inflation. But you also have the source of money still coming from the banks. Like we talked about, the banks had that excess gold and would lend it out. Well, the banks are still playing that same game, only the money has been very fake since 1971. It's been controlled by a cabal of banker. Is it right to call them scammers? They're not really criminals. They're kind of above the law and beyond everyone's general awareness, but they still create that funny money, the counterfeit money, and they're loaning it out with interest. You can get very complicated about how this system works with the Federal Reserve and it creating money and it loaning to the government. Really, they're counterfeiting the money and loaning it with interest. So you have to keep repaying the old debt payments with new money. There's not enough money. There will never be enough money in order to pay off the money. In fact, if we took all the money we had and paid off the debt, there would be a lot of debt left over and still not enough money. So we are dependent on the banks and the Federal Reserve to flood the system, which they did in 2008 when things were really kind of the beginning of the end. And now we've been teetering closer and closer to the end of this system. And the COVID era was another, what would you call it, seizure in the system where they created a lot of money. But the thing about rich people, they are doing what you would do in that situation where you have all this money, where they have to keep creating more of it to get that lifeblood money into the system. You can't have deflation in this system. If you did, there wouldn't be enough money to make debt payments if we had deflation or if we did not have inflation. So you are in the system. You are not aware that you're part of this. This guy is a part of it. This guy wants the banks and the Federal Reserve and everybody who understands it wants this to happen, which also pays the rich people more. Because what do rich people do in that situation? What would you do if you had money in this situation and you know it's going to become worth less and less? Well, you would buy these hard assets like we talked about. Very difficult to create more of, easier to create lawnmowers, easier to create fish. The other thing that they do, which is a feedback loop, making the situation the worst. This is my whole point I've been working up to, is they buy houses and like Bill Gates, they buy land, and Bill Gates is the largest individual owner of farmland in the US. So do you think that farmland is going to lose its value? Do you think people are going to keep buying his food, buying food from him? So the other person, recently richest person in the world, Larry Ellison of Oracle, owns a staggering number of mansions and fills them up with fine art, which are also finite assets. So as they all play this game, as you can't store your surplus value in physical gold, that's still dangerous. There are other markets, other metals, land, like farms, stocks, fine art, real estate. And these things have all become the money. And cryptocurrency too, of course. So I know I'm 25 minutes in, and I hope that sheds a little light. I don't really see these explanations out there anymore. Let's continue.
And we should. Not money they earned. Money
That's
they
true.
have. And we should take it. With taxes. What a fucking novel concept.
Why can't we get by in this country anymore just working one fucking job? Like our parents and grandparents did. But when did survival become a group project? Everybody's so quick to yell, just work harder, grind more, pick a side hustle. But the real...
Work... Well, this is the other thing, that even though this is heavily distorted, even though people should be getting what they deserve who work in this productive economy, people creating goods, they're not... a lot of these people are not getting what they deserve. Like this guy seems like an okay guy, getting should have enough, right? But he's not getting what he deserves. And then people like Bill Gates and Larry Ellison, when they create more money and have to keep creating more and more, they don't deserve it. So this is the unfair part. Cryptocurrency, they've been working on cryptocurrencies to try to fix this or create a digital scarcity. Bitcoin is not quite it. It's too slow. It's too expensive. And I would encourage you to look into a coin called Caspa, which just got smart contracts. It recently did almost 5,000 transactions per second. 60 million transactions per day, and it is proof of work, which is what gold is. As we talked about earlier, you have to prove, not really easy to explain how that works digitally, decentralized, secure, why it is what it is. But producing fish involves proof of work, and producing gold is proof that you worked to get that gold. Maybe if you create a very clever robot to start mining asteroids, you definitely proved that you were working smarter. But work is negative entropy, and entropy is the measure of disorder and uncertainty. I'm using it somewhat metaphorically, but it's more than disorder. It's more than uncertainty. It's an amount of disorder and uncertainty measured, contained within a certain time and space, because disorder and uncertainty increases throughout the universe. No matter what you do, it always increases. If you're in a situation where you're reducing the disorder and you're reducing the uncertainty, you are creating even more disorder and even more uncertainty. What I mean by that is, if you do a restaurant, the restaurant's a big hit, you're creating more people to expend more energy and come in and spend more money. You're creating more trash. You're getting more deliveries. You're doing more cleaning. Your staff is burning more calories. Your staff is making more money. So it's always more and more and more. In economics, they call it an externality. But it's external to the negative entropy, because you're creating more disorder by reducing disorder. And resolving uncertainty causes you to create more uncertainty because you've opened up a new discipline, or you've opened up and you've answered a new question, which can always lead to another 10 questions, especially if you're very good at reducing the uncertainty. Like, if you really, really reduce the uncertainty, you get a dramatic break from everything we used to understand and questions that we had answers to. But let's get back to it. And we'll talk about, even though we're in this very distorted, very unfair, seizing, kind of dangerous situation, actually, in terms of the monetary system, there is such a thing as the economy. There are still people, it does kind of work, or it can work, especially if you think about what the market is. Like, the market will price scalped tickets higher, and that price signal of some scalped tickets or some highway robbery at a disaster, having that price gouging at a disaster, if you really increase those prices, then by the time the next disaster comes, people who have the goods and have the time and have the means will be standing by and bring those goods into that disaster, wherever it is. So price is a signal, even as distorted as it is, even as manipulated as it is. And we haven't even gotten into Washington, D.C., New York, Silicon Valley, L.A., corporate America, which has a way of counterfeiting this new money into existence at 0% interest and then buying back their own shares, and all of these different games. And Wall Street getting a bailout, Silicon Valley Bank getting a bailout, the venture capitalists being able to run, they're able to run all of these AI companies at a loss because it's complicated, but they get that free, very low cost money. If it's not straight from Wall Street investments or private companies, it's also coming from venture capitalists who have been successful. They're successful because they're like Bill Gates and the Ellison types, where that money has been invested and it's compounding, growing over there, while your housing and your food costs. Wait, what should I be doing? Your housing and food costs cost more and more, but their assets, their ownership, which they're able to fund all of these things with, it's not the dirtiest trick when it comes to the economy, but that's why we're getting all this money thrown at this situation. But let me try to focus. Maybe I'll get back on topic. Anyway, there is still, after having said all that, what you can still do in this economy, the fact that we have this thing that's better than the wheel, better than fire, electricity, all of these things, you can still use them. And you can at least try. Maybe you'll learn something if you try. And don't use it, but as I said before, using this to get training, to do your school, to build things, to collaborate, or to go into companies and sell this. It's a $29 flat fee. There's other software out there that might do something like this, but it's going to be much more expensive. So taking this, going to the Chamber of Commerce or BNI meeting and getting contacts, maybe getting a business integrated with AI for free for the first one or two. And then when you go to the next business, you're able to boom, 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 hit their spots where they where you know from experience where their AI should be set up, usually in areas that are very repetitive or areas where they have some friction or need something like an expert. But we can talk more about that.
Well, I am currently homeless. How did it happen? Basically, I was living in South Florida for 7 years, and with the insane rising cost of living, I couldn't afford it anymore. And we are talking insane rising cost of living. When I first moved there, I was paying $1,400, $1,500 a month for an over 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And now I was recently just paying $3,000 a month, that's nothing included, for a tiny little 700 square foot 1-1. That's just one of my bills, okay? The insurance skyrocketed. They were actually trying to charge me $800, $700.
Something else about this system, especially in the phase that we're in, especially from 1971 onward in Ohio and the surrounding states, that was the ground zero of the deindustrialization. So someone like this obviously good looking, the reason she's not with a nice guy, making a good living, is what this system does. I'm really not defending this system of the monetary system, the system that we're in. The fact that you have so many people taking, counterfeiting, and confiscating, that means that you cannot have a also just a regular business that's just making like a meager profit, 5-10% profit. In a factory, in a restaurant, it's why the winners take all, the Magnificent Seven, they call it, the 7 winning stocks are taking everything from everyone else because they're able to get that lead start and overcome the real inflation rate, which is much higher than 2% or 3%. So your business doesn't cut it at 10%. Like real estate and gold, if you want to see what the markets are, like, let me pull this up. Housing priced in gold. It's almost the same. So gold and housing. My point about this, like this is going back since 1963. Gold and housing, we're not in a situation where the stock market is going up 10% or the housing is going up 10%, which it is. That's just the real inflation rate. That's the amount of money that they're confiscating, and maybe the amount of inefficiency that the government does to the market when it confiscates and spends it on things for somebody else that they don't care about. Bribes for bribes. Anyway, the hurdle rate is 10%. Like you were in business, you had your costs, and then you had your profits. You can add 10% because inflation is 10%. Pretty simple. Simple as that. So whatever your business was, if you're competing with Microsoft or Facebook, here's me and my little software company here, freelance developer, offering this thing. I think it is actually pretty good and will provide value. But if I was to incorporate this into a company, get salespeople, spend money on ads, get, after a certain number of employees, have to get regulators, get HR, dealing with the government and dealing with that 10% hurdle rate, going back to what I was saying about this nice lady, nice fella, can't have 3 or 5 kids, because the business they would have been working for could not beat that inflation rate of 10%. So what did that mean? It means Paul Singer and Mitt Romney, these guys create a bunch of junk bonds, create a bunch of debt out of nothing. They go into manufacturing or any business, any chain, anywhere in America, and they buy it up, they rip it apart, they sell it for scraps, they fire everybody. If anything is able to replace it, it is offshored, or they bring in other people, foreign labor, to replace people like, well, let me try to avoid the politics thing here, but this is just, this is what the monetary system incentivizes, because then you can destroy and bring in someone much cheaper or outsource it to China. So now we don't have bottles where the company cannot dump chemicals. In China, they're dumping chemicals, although China's kind of been rising, but they'll find another, as their debt increases, as the whole world works like this, but as the world debt increases, it will keep finding the worst, lowest paid, most crappy version to replace the company that she or I or her family members would have worked for. And they're going to abuse the workers. They're going to dump chemicals in the water. They're going to be a corrupt company, and they're going to ship, instead of the thing that used to be produced, manufactured, or service here, it's going to come from over there. There's going to be fraud involved. There's going to be a corrupt dictatorship government we'll deal with instead. There's going to be chemicals, microplastics. If they're, let's say it's a bottle company, durable bottles, clothing, that clothing is going to shed some toxic microplastics onto your skin, into your lungs, into your containers. So it's a race to the bottom, because we can't have nice things, especially during this phase, as that guy before her was talking about. Why can't we make it? It's because the money's fake, and the money goes farther and farther away from the actual goods value exchanged. So let's get back to it.
$50 a month to insure one car. I have no accidents, no claims, no nothing. Obviously, I can't afford that. Many other things skyrocketed as well, and so I was being hit.
Yeah,
from
I didn't
all
mention
angles,
cars.
and
People
I
can't
just
afford
couldn't
cars.
afford it. I also don't have family. I grew up being abused, so I now just moved back to New England, and it actually is more affordable here.
That's sad. Abused. She kind of looks like she's wearing a mask.
But there's also other things, like for example, in Florida, most places require you to make 3 to 4 times the monthly rent. I don't know about you, but I'm not making $10,000 a month, which is $120,000 a year. And most people looking for apartments aren't. I started a new job as soon as I got here. I drove all the way up from Florida to Massachusetts, started working the next day. And even though I'm making decent money,
Okay, we get it.
and I just need a little help.
Who remembers when $200 Canadian was more than enough to go to the grocery store? Like, if you were going with $200, $250 Canadian, I was feeling like Tony Montana.
Canada's even worse.
The amount of groceries that I could get, my whole cart would be full to the top. Now, when I go to the grocery store, if I don't double this or triple this money, I won't be able to get my groceries.
That's the thing about inflation, is in America it's 5 to 10%, but then because it is the reserve currency, the other first world countries, it can be more like 15 to 20. And then beyond that, it's more like 30 to 50. So,
and even when I'm leaving the grocery store, I'm still thinking about, oh, I forgot to get that. I could have got that.
same.
Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live?
I want to try this again. Okay. People exchange goods for goods. And when people make more goods than they can consume before it rots, they want to store that excess surplus value somewhere. So storing it in gold has been the default, the thing that we start with, we move away from by putting it in vaults, by giving it to the government, by getting the certificates, and then the government and the banks get rid of it, sell it, gamble it away, take bribes, send it off to cabals, sell it off, sell out, and then we're left in a situation where money is still being lent as if it is backed by depositors' real work, real confined amount of value. And now as we give that away, people who were at one point successful, doing well, they get their surplus value eaten away if they don't put it into housing, if they don't put it into food, if they don't buy exotic cars, if they don't buy the fine arts, artworks, if they don't bid up the price of everything that will last. And that's the situation. We're in the final phase of this.
American dream is dead. Yes, the traditional American dream, which is like doing better than your parents and being able to provide a lot for your family, is dead, or at least it's changed.
And the fact that I filmed this whole video a year ago, which we will get back to, but now the NASDAQ is dropping and we are entering another big recession in our lifetimes, I'd say the dream is officially dead. Majority of my life now as a Gen Z, and I know millennials can relate, have been spent in some sort of recession.
If you've driven around the country, if you drove around it like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it looks like Afghanistan. It looks bombed out. Depressing.
Because there are many of us that are well aware that we will never be able to make as much money as our parents did. And I think my mother, who is a boomer and benefited directly from the system in place, said it best when she once said, roughly, that the American dream has changed. It's become very apparent to everyone that in this economy, Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers, many of us will not be able to do better than our parents. We won't even be able to do as well as our parents. And now the American dream has become just being able to get by, being able to maybe afford a house at some point, maybe have a kid or two if we're lucky enough to make that much money. And a lot of us, myself included, who has now experienced company like financial related layoff. Those of us.
The wild thing about it, as has been in the news the last few days, Salesforce laying off almost half its staff. I think the company Accutane Accutech laid off 11,000. Accutech. And I think they were a consultant IT. Accu something, I don't know. I don't want to knock these other companies. But laying people off and mass layoffs. You know, getting a computer science degree and getting a college education and a lot of things was a guarantee that you would have, especially programming, a guarantee that you would have a six-figure income for a generation. But Accenture, I was way off. 800 million restructuring. Even Starbucks, which was the thing that like only store in real life other than the Apple store that you really see busy all the time, also starting to feel it. I think this really, like from 2008 and the Rust Belt areas onward, there was still a middle class. You were still able to do okay. But I think now the fact that it's hitting Starbucks, and that tends to be people who can afford $5 or $7 on a drink every morning. You see the way these people dress who go into Starbucks, a little more middle class, upper class, and the fact that they can't afford it anymore. So, that's new. That's a symptom. Things are getting worse.
To feel like we're constantly in fight or flight about bills and how we're gonna keep making it by. It's making us miserable and feel.
Yeah, the stress, and not only the thing about the fact that you have to hit and surpass that 10% hurdle rate with your profits if you're in business, and also keeping your employees, keeping them from going on to one of the Wall Street approved monopoly companies. It's really stressful, and you can't burn your extra, like say you didn't want to make 15%, say you wanted to make 10% this quarter or this whole year because you really wanted to establish quality with goods. You don't really see that. You don't see that too much. Only in technology can they really get away with that, and that's what the promise of mega billions and trillions coming in later. But do you know what I mean? How everything is pretty low quality, and the quality keeps getting worse. Like we have these containers, if you notice, kind of durable good plastic containers. Cookware has become thinner since the 2022-2021 inflation, shrinkflation. It's not just in the size of like snacks, but they're really putting less materials into something like what should be durable goods.
So hopeless. And yes, I could sit here all day and show you graphs of how like inflation is going up, and while wages are going up, it's just not matching inflation.
Not enough.
It feels like we're all just constantly working, and the goalpost just keeps getting moved further and further away from us. And yeah, it has a lot of us extremely stressed and worried and feel like just giving up because we're constantly running a race where the finish line is getting moved further out. And I think it's obvious that we're all just really exhausted by it now. I know I am. I'm constantly hitting a wall with all of this.
Yep.
And a lot of us have to wake up every day blatantly knowing we will never do as well as our parents did. And we just have to try to make it, somewhat close to that. I'm sorry. My dad passed away several years ago on this date. So I'm just thinking about him, and sometimes I feel like he'd be proud of me, but sometimes I feel like he'd be very disappointed. But he was also an extremely intelligent businessman with multiple degrees, so I think he, more than anyone, would really understand what we're all feeling right now.
Living in California.
Yeah, so I'm trying to give direction. I'm trying to give an explanation. Really hard, like a lady like that and the lady before and these guys. You see the depression with the guys out there, like a guy. It doesn't do well for a guy in the dating scene when he keeps making less and less and having less and less expected assets every 5 or 10 years. And not good for the prospects, not good for the hypergamy. But what was I saying? So even though everything is getting worse and worse, like you have to focus on what you can offer. So there are people who run AI agencies, developer shops, and they are the exception right now, doing a integration of, they call them AI agents, into workflows, like being on the phone. If you're in sales or you're in customer service or your business, you can reach a business that does sales or customer service. If you can reach the person in charge of that, and instead of them contacting one of these agencies and giving them $200,000 to build AI into their system, like every person using Salesforce at that company, if they have a one of these objects, what am I trying to say? Like this one piece of software, which I'm not charging a lot of money for, if you want to be that person, which would be a small percent of people watching this, if you're just watching for the maybe the explanation or the TikTok pain, or maybe an understanding of the economy is always offering something. I mean, you as an economic participant, you should be offering something of value. So this is your time. You were on a track, probably in your 12 plus kindergarten, 13 years in school. That was the government again. They were confiscating that money. What do we say about people doing bad things or threatening bad consequences to get what they want? Well, that was kind of your teachers and the principal. They're just, I gotta say, they're babysitters, because maybe some of you out there are the exception, but they didn't prepare you for this situation. I hope at least a small percent out there, I can offer a little line of life to this situation. So using software like this and going to that company, instead of them going to an AI agency, if you offer this and you want to connect it also to their scheduler, if they're talking, if not everything is going into Salesforce, but something should go into a schedule, something should create a reminder. If they're using Excel, if they're using Google Docs, and you want to connect this into a Google Doc. If you're a tech person, recent tech graduate, and you didn't get, which they're not hiring any junior developers, new developers anywhere, and you want to develop and build out with this something where this is the eyes and the ears and the type 1 thinking brain. And even if you're not, or never thought you would be a developer, this is valuable to companies. A lot of people in companies don't know, and you're going to be saving them if you can offer them for a few hundred or a few thousand to integrate this, and integrate this central thing for $29 a month. And then you can bill them for whatever you want instead of the $29. But then if you also want to build the thing that communicates to Excel, you could also add something like in the prompt here. The prompt will say, review your customer service agents, review, see which ones deserve a raise, which ones do not deserve a raise. Help the salespeople who are technical, help the technical people who don't know sales. Or also just review them, be a note taker. There are all these, I hope you're getting the picture, like what businesses have been doing, what they've been doing to have tasks, to have leads, to change from leads into contacts, or schedule an event, or schedule a task for a lead. Like this, these are things that you can build out for a company. And this is what can get you started. You can also build this if you want. You don't have to use my thing, but I think I have built, especially for the price of a flat fee, along with using Grok, which costs almost nothing. It's a few pennies, and also a 7-day free trial per seat, per email, per computer. Then I think this is something to get you going, and not only get you offering something good, but there's money saving them from being gouged if they go with an AI agency. That could be bad for a lot of other reasons. Like once that AI agency builds in custom software and builds in a custom model, and the custom model is doing custom something called retrieval augmentation generation. Once they're doing that, then that AI agency is, I don't think, going to treat them very fairly. It's going to charge them too much money. Whereas with this, in this situation, this tool is much more flexible. So, in other words, how could I sum it up? I mean, people out there desperate on TikTok, dreams shattered, don't know what to do, we're not prepared, don't understand. I hope I've given the understanding. This is the phase of the monetary system. Don't let it keep you from offering something good. Don't lash out. Don't hopefully let it prevent you from personal, professional relationships. Offer what is very needed right now, or this part, AI is very real. I think we skipped over that woman without commentary about AI being a bubble. And to get out, AI is not a bubble. AI is added intelligence. It's going to be built in. So you should be the one building it. If you want to, I don't know, send actual letters, this is something I'll be doing in my area. Although I was a freelance web developer before the AI thing, and it was really kind of a grind to deal with customers, but I think I might get out there again and do this, like mailing actual physical letters to the sales manager, to the customer service manager, to the office manager, and ask them what their AI strategy is. And with this, I assure you, at least at the point in time of me making this video, this is the best thing. But people out there desperate, this is like your one, it's like technology and the economy are just this sediment. You cannot work for the Pony Express. You can't work for a newspaper. You cannot, maybe you can be a blogger or YouTuber, but the supply of content out there is much more. But the distribution of intelligence is up for grabs. And it's going to depend on your personality, on your perseverance, if you're going to, you know, handle rejection, if you want to like do all the stuff, get your teeth whitened, mail out physical letters with stamps, go into the reception area, make some business cards, go to the BNI, the Chamber of Commerce. Looks like I'm frozen up there for the moment. Is that my camera? Okay. Well, I was just about to wrap it up anyway, but we saw how it worked, right? Let's show the Salesforce part of the code. If you don't know, Salesforce, sending forms, like talking on the phone to people who are possible sales leads, developing a sales lead into a contact in customer service. You can get that information from the phone call, from the transcript. You can use, let me also pull this up, the phone link. If you're on Windows 11, you can connect your Android or your iPhone. This will transcribe audio on a laptop. So as you're talking, getting information like this, information in these fields here, first name, last name, email, phone number, title, department, description for a what do we have this set to? A new contact. Extracting all of that and these other objects. This is a situation where you can extract it visually from taking a screenshot. Like, see here, even though there was not a name or all these things mentioned, it still did its best. It extracted something about the transcript, talking about debt and wealth. It's a pretty good summary of the TikTokers. But anyway, you see this faux email up here. We're going to clear the transcript, take a screenshot, ask the AI, and then it's going to fill it up with this. And then possibly as I click send, then if I go into my Salesforce, then I will, as I'm saying that, this takes a minute to, how do you say, load into Salesforce. Not a minute, but a few seconds. Can I fix my video? No. All right, forget the video. So going in, we see this new contact was created in Salesforce. And this is something that is available for you. I'm not doing this is not a course bro thing. I'm not selling you a course. I'm not even selling you my software, although I'm telling you I think it's the best option. I am making moves. I am trying to provide something at a very good price that builds the intelligence, the real intelligence, into the workflow. And it does work. So all of that was built in, and this does prevent things like if you are a multi-person business and you have also someone over here looking at the email, and if they try to send this again, you'll get a defense mechanism built into Salesforce there. Prevents you from creating duplicates. So this thing is production ready. And so literally what I'm saying, there's really no solution. That the fact that people doing real work out there are losing their purchasing power, having to pay more money in rent, more money on groceries, while the rich people, their money, their stocks, their bonds, their houses, their land, their art increases in value at the same time that that's happening. Even still, we can still provide something of value, do well. We can play in this game. And I think it's interesting, like especially for a small business, this is going to be an advantage. And not even for things that I've gone over already, but things like whatever you want to have in this prompt that would help you while you're talking to customers or while you are in training. Like if you're taking a course, something like this, let's back this up a little bit. Like if you're in training and you straight up want the answer, or if you want a clue, then this program will give you the answer. What does it say the answer is? The answer, according to it, is C, drum. Hopefully your screen is big enough to see that. We saw earlier that it was. The answer is drum. So it knows the answers to everything. And this is just the beginning of this general intelligence that we're going to have in applications like this. Why does it listen to your transcript? Why is it transcribing your phone call? And why is it taking your screenshot? Is this too much control? What else is it doing? Is it moving files? Is it controlling the microphone? It's really just, if you've used the OpenAI app or the Google Gemini app and you press the talk button instead, or you talk to Siri or you talk to Alexa, it's the same thing. Basically, it's not taking your audio. I am a freelance developer. I have no interest in your conversations, and especially not your audio, which is a lot of storage. If you go with another company, Microsoft, name the other big 5, whatever, tech companies, they're going to be using that stuff. If you talk to Alexa, I'm pretty sure they have all of your record, especially searching Google. So we're in that era, and nobody is selling this to your competitors. Like, nobody is selling your leads to your competitors. So these things are generally safe to talk to. What might happen is some of that training data might end up with Grok, which is the fastest, most low-priced models. Right now the model is the Llama 4, but talking to one of these, giving it some training data, nobody, I've heard there are techniques to sometimes see actual training data from a deployed model, but Grok doesn't really train models. Grok uses open source models and will in some ways modify them. I think they would probably even look out for any personal or specific, I don't know. That stuff is really deep in the realm of data and the realm of data brokers. I don't know too much about it, but AI training data is not, or AI interaction data, I don't think it's in the realm of things that get leaked into the public. I went over this already. I explained RAG, but let's call something from inside. We're going to use this same fake email and not have it on the screen anymore. If you remember the fake email from before, that was this fake email. So the app has no access to it anymore, clearing the transcript, nothing coming from the screen. So I just need the talking to the AI, the phone number you have. You're aware of a phone number of someone named Goldie. Last name is Jolie. I need that person's phone number, and I need that area code. I need to know what area code that is as well. So just let's see if being just a model, trained last year, which I have uploaded this new text file in. Does it have the phone number? Yes, it does. There it is. And does it say where the phone number is from? Not really, but that depends on the prompt. So this is valuable. Yeah, we're all on TikTok. We're freaking out. We can't believe we don't know how bad this is going to get. But you do not want to contribute to the mania. You want to use this as a situation to figure out what's really going on, which is what I talked about. The person creating fish or creating lawnmowers and exchanging it for the gold. And then the thing you should do, what an economic, smallest unit of economic unit is, whether it's goods or whether it is a person buying and producing, you're producing things to exchange. So hopefully good for goods. And it's really about services. So if you want, this is all I have to offer, which I think is pretty good. Adding services. Hopefully this is valuable to you in your work, in your training, in your school. The adversity you have, especially in a white collar type job in the next few years, to not be using this right now. If it's not to just straight up get the certification, if you feel justified asking for the answers during certification to give you a hint. And then it's hopefully something you are doing that you care about that is interesting. Like, I think RAG is interesting. I think tools like these are interesting. So if I was studying it, if I was getting training, I would write in here in the prompt to give me a hint for whatever is on the screen, and then it's there when I need it. So you should be using this to your advantage, and I offer it to you. You can use it. You can offer it for, let me tell you, just look at a few other videos about what AI agencies are charging and how not only that they're able to charge tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that they're highly in demand. And this thing, like, it does it. I'm the one doing it. Most of the agents can do the things that they are building in brittle, very expensive, very high maintenance workflows, processes, structures that I can do, or anyone can do here with a screenshot and a transcript of you and the person you're talking to. Like taking notes for meetings, setting tasks when in the meeting, collaborating in the meeting, giving expert opinions in the meeting, in the collaboration, getting the customer what they need as soon as possible. Everybody wants that, and this enables it. And I have built these features in. There's also other software out there. Haven't really gotten to that yet. When you go to, and if you are able to find other software that has the Salesforce integration that offers the RAG, which you can load this up with an immense amount of data and pull things out of it, or synthesize them, or put that in for consideration, just as easy as it was to get this phone number. Building all these things up, trying to stay on the topic of other people offering software like this. If they offer this software, it's not going to be for $29 a month. And then if they do have any of these features, every one of these additional features are going to cost more. And adding Salesforce, this button here, you can open the transcript, see how well it's transcribing. Does pretty well, but that's the point. I think this is helpful, going to help businesses, small businesses, large businesses, and it will add the intelligence. And in the future, the next model, the Llama 5 and the Llama 6, are going to be much, much, much better. So you're going to be able to collaborate like high school kids. If you're watching this in the year 2027, 28, hopefully I still have all of this up. I have my server up here at winsystem.dev, and you're able to get in here and use this, or hopefully you've moved beyond, like in the year 2028, they're still not using this text box, which is not giving enough context. You need to give the AI context. Feel about that however you want, but you need to give it a lot of context. And that is how you will win what's important now, WIN, the WIN system. But how do you use AI? Maybe I could talk about that, the situation. Like, AI is there for questions, and AI does compression, right? AI compression is another word for intelligence, okay? So what does it mean to have intelligence and to call intelligence? Back to entropy again. It's when you have uncertainty, and real uncertainty. Like, there is such a thing as a bad question or a dumb question, because if you're asking a question that you already know the answer to, or don't care to have an answer for, you're not resolving uncertainty, okay? We went over this about entropy. Entropy is uncertainty. Entropy is disorder. So the way that you would resolve uncertainty, or the reason that you would need to resolve uncertainty, is because you have real uncertainty. So when would you have real, like in your life, when do you have, like hopefully I've resolved it for some of these TikTok people, that they have real uncertainty, and I am, sorry, let me work on my camera while I'm talking. But you would resolve uncertainty by kind of throwing yourself into a situation where you would create a lot of order. Is that a good way of putting it? Of creating a lot of like being in a situation where you would create a lot of resource. Like a resource is something that reduces uncertainty. Like a resource is order. It's negative entropy. Like your food, clothing, and shelter are a smaller and smaller subset. As something like shoes gets better and better and better, it is a smaller and smaller and smaller subset of possible configurations that shoes could be. And this is why we have classic things, classic types of boots, classic types of meals, like things that have stood the test of time as being good and being great. And it's the same with a car, and the number of ways that a car could be totaled is not just running optimally mint condition and then totaled. It's that mint condition is a smaller possible number of ways of arranging the car, of arranging things in the car, or as compared to being totaled, the number of configurations where you could be in a tornado and the number of things that could go through the car in a tornado and destroy it, the number of different ways that it could be crumpled. So you're fighting against a lot of possibilities when we're talking about entropy and disorder. So negative entropy is always a narrowing that is more and more narrow to get better and better and better. So you would want, when using AI, when applying it, you would want to be in a situation where you're really doing something, not just moving things around. You can, of course, use it for repetitive tasks, but the big application, the important application in the future is going to be using it for things that you really are going for, a situation where you're trying to create order or greatness where there has never been greatness before of this kind. What I mean is like creating a new way of 3D printing steel in your basement with low watts, with sand or dirt, like getting a lot from a little bit, like a little bit of energy, very basic materials, and getting something very rarefied, very strong material, very cheap material, lightweight material. Going for something like that, that's a specific example of where an AI in the future is going to be doing material science. So you're going to be asking it questions like that, or you could check that every few years. If you're on Twitter, there's real mathematicians like Terence Tao and other math people at this moment September 29th, 2025, doing what's near groundbreaking physics or groundbreaking math. And this is going to go into the unknown, like the industrial age was the unknown. How do you build a car? How do you build a car assembly line? So those are real questions. And when you ask those real questions, that's a question. Like, that's a question with uncertainty, and information and compressed intelligence resolves that uncertainty. And maybe it sounds obvious, but this is going to be ways of applying intelligence. I hope I'm resolving the uncertainty about the economy and resolving the uncertainty about what AI is and how to use it. I hope I've offered a tool, take it or leave it, that you might use. But in the future, I'm going to have better models in here, especially as I get more users for this. Whatever possible new features I can add in here, like, I don't know if I'm going to get like your glasses. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta are going to own your AI glasses, but this is on Windows. You can still build on Windows, and NVIDIA has pretty good support for their GPU drivers. So some people like Linux for building, but you're still able to build on Windows. And so stringing things together, having this and building and connecting this to other apps, I hope in the future that this is going to be something that's worthwhile for you. It'll depend on your situation, or something that you might want to use. Were there more TikTok videos? Listen to this woman again.
Deutsche Bank just released a report that said that the U.S. economy is basically being held together with toothpicks, scotch tape, and AI investments right now. And when the bubble pops, it is going to be devastating. AI has always been snake oil, at least in this current iteration.
No, it's very good in this iteration. It's not snake oil. It's the opposite of snake oil. It's the least snake oil, hype is real thing. And coming during this age where everything's getting worse, like this banking system is, you can easily in this monetary system be on the wrong end of it. In fact, most people are. And being on the wrong end of AI is also something you don't want to be on the wrong end of. If you just graduated from school with computer science, you're on the wrong end unless you scramble and can become a AI agency or just get some freelance clients. You're hopefully going to get on to the right side of it, or if you're able to use it. But the intelligence is very real, and we're just beginning now to get better and bigger things and more intelligence. So, but I don't know what she's saying, why she would say that. Like, these companies, I had them up before, not making money. Like, maybe this one and this one will win, and this one already has so many products and users and data out there that they'll just be able to build it in. This one's probably toast. This one's going to give it away for free just to torpedo these other ones. This one will use the free ones, and this is the one that you should call. You should also maybe call DeepSeek, hosted from this rather than being hosted in China. Haven't heard much from this one lately, although they're probably very good, or maybe not actually. But anyway, these are losing money, massive, spending hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. Oh, important fact I left out. AI agencies. Going to these companies. I don't know how I didn't mention this. Giving these AI agencies tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they're not being utilized. They're not using the things that they built in, but they're being paid anyway. So with this, whether that was you and it didn't work out, or you go to a business and they say we tried and it didn't work out, and you're offering them this, this is a lower cost, more flexible, I think, right way to implement AI into a workflow. So as she was saying, snake oil, 80 to 95% of people who implement AI, it's not working. So that, but this is a crazy economy anyway. We covered that at length, how the monopolies are taking everything or taking most, and then people, normal, hardworking, salt of the earth quality stuff that is making anything less than a 10% compounding growth, even though should be very valuable. Not only all of those jobs, those stakeholders, everyone from the rich to the poor in that local business making the thing that's not growing at 10% a year, and the equality of that, and the local pride and culture that is something we just can't have. We can't have nice things like that because of the state of the money. Also, on this other end, this money is funding these things to build massive, like most of these are powering, well, not most, a few of these are powering up nuclear power plants to train the new generations of models on. But they're using they happen to be in that winning side of the monetary, the deranged monetary system we have.
If you're in it, if you're in tech and you're working in it, you gotta get out.
No, if you're working in it, you need to make sure that you're delivering something of value to your clients. Okay? Get out for what? To go where?
Even if for your own moral fortitude.
All right, so I make $15 an hour.
We saw this one. Saw that guy.
Well, people don't know.
Saw
when I-
her. Saw
Working in the
her.
goalpost.
Saw her.
Things my family wants, but we can't afford. Grocery store. Dave's bread. Fancy pickles.
Those aren't
Just
fancy.
little bites. And Crustables. Rayo's. Joe. Pagos. Smart Food popcorn. Packaged chips. Gushers. Chips Ahoy packages. Honey bunches of oats. Pop-Tarts. Kielbasa. Dragon fruit. Fresh mozzarella. Tate's. Beef jerky. Gum.
It's a lot of junk food.
Naked drinks.
Here's what I'm willing to pay for things. Here's how much things should cost.
It's not only junk food, it's like just buy some bulk grains and nuts and seeds and some what was most of that stuff? It's just a bunch of overpriced crispy starch with some sugar and flavor dust.
Okay? If I'm getting a small hot coffee from a deli, I should be able to pay for that with random change that I find in my pockets. Okay? $1.25 tops! If I'm getting a bagel toasted with butter, that has to be under $3, okay? None, please. With cream cheese, okay, fine, $3.25. None of this $4.50 nonsense, okay? Cut it out. I don't even want to start to talk about a bacon, egg, and cheese price. Getting into the double digits, I should be able to walk into a CVS and get a deodorant and a face wash and perhaps some Altoids for under $30. Holy mother of pearl! I shouldn't be like, oh God, I'm so silly. I spent so much money today getting Aquaphor and ibuprofen from Walgreens.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that I'm sure if you go to all your Walmart, you could find some bagels and cream cheese and have that every morning for a pretty good price. But then, of course, the retail and the scene, the restaurant is not going to survive when they have to charge these wages and those food costs, the rent costs, the utility costs. So we already went over why that's happening, but it just makes everything like as it gets worse, it gets worse. But
and being like, God, I really broke the bank. And a Bud Light draft should be $3. You know, okay, a Corona, $4 maybe. If we're verging into Allagash White territory and you want to say, hey, that's $5 or $6, okay, you're pushing it, but okay. I'm going to be president of the United States of America, and yeah, things are going to go poorly and things are going to crash, and I'm going to be impeached. But for a brief shining moment, I promise that things are going to be priced normally.
Yeah, remember when Trump and Vance ran on prices? This stuff is out of the control of everybody. This is just what happens. It's really about a system of energy. Like money is a storehold of energy that should be contained. Everybody who put work into their system, into that system of energy, when you let a lot of people counterfeit and steal the underlying thing constraining the amount of work, which is limited because negative entropy is limited, intelligence is limited, certainty is limited. So that's why you want to have hard money. There's debate about whether hard money, as I've been talking about, is something that benefits rich people. Well, maybe, definitely now. But if we're in a situation where the workers can hold and not have counterfeiting and confiscation taking their energy, having someone else get in, be that middleman, then it is it's better for that entire chain of exchange, because it's not just a barter system where it's one, whatever she does. Let's say she delivers for Amazon. If she delivers for Amazon, the person who bought the book sells the trash bags. The person who buys the trash bags gets their... We can't have barter to barter because we can't exchange one to one. We need the medium of exchange, which exchanges for all. My new point I'm trying to make is should be a fixed container, a safe container of energy, because it is energy, or a container of negative entropy, because work is negative entropy. Work is configuration, like I was saying, of that smaller and smaller possible subset of configuration. If she's an Amazon driver, there are almost infinite number of places to put the package, but the precise place to put the package at the precise time, and that is what the negative entropy is that we all put into and take from. But hopefully, as we are exchanging, we are increasing the amount of goods, and it's more than an equal exchange. It's that she is exchanging, which she she doesn't need an Amazon package delivered. She needs a bagel and a Bud Light, which is maybe what a delivery of an Amazon package is worth. So that container should be win-win and more than a zero-sum game. It's a positive-sum game because we're exchanging things that we don't want for things that we do want. But to have the shared system of energy, which we called money, be something that people can confiscate or that people can counterfeit, once you do that, things get worse and worse. They get better and better for the worse and worse actions, and they get worse and worse for the better and better actions. So like working harder, as people have been complaining about. But you still, like I was saying, you don't want to lose your head in the situation. We happen to be, you might call it lucky, you might call it an opportunity that you have the internet and someone, if unless you could prove me wrong, is able to show what is happening and then offer something that you can do. She, fine salesperson there could offer this to someone, right? Instead of hoping for or demanding, what are you going to have? Demand of $3 bagel? No, the bagel store's going out of business.
Okay, I'm done.
If something is not done with the prices that keep going up in Canada, I will be on the street. I will be literally on the street corner next week, panhandling, asking for some change. It's comical how our wages aren't going up, but the price of everything around us skyrocketing. And it's not near as bad in America as it is in Canada.
Yeah, they just hired Carney worked for the central bank. And the reason you might not have known, I'm going on nearly, hour 41 minutes now, but people like Mark Carney who come across as an expert and worked for the bank, maybe he knows the bank, maybe he knows the economy, maybe he can. These people are not experts. They have to manage and manipulate the situation. They're counterfeiters. The money has been the real storehold of value, as I've been talking about, which should be the win-win situation where good people get what they deserve and bad people get the bad thing or the nothing that they deserve instead of this woman. The Federal Reserve, the system, everyone in those circles, in those areas like Washington, D.C., Wall Street, New York, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, they're in league with this to any extent that they know what's going on. They're manipulated by this money system. Who knows who really controls it? Who cares? But they, Mark Carney they're not experts. There's an elaborate system of manipulation to prevent you from understanding what this is. Did I mention the Ivy League schools too? Those are another network of people funded by this central banking system, which is owned by the banking cartel. So Mark Carney is one of them. Went on that banking jag just because she's from Canada.
1,000% worse in Canada. Every aspect, we can't catch a break. Groceries are now like triple the price. I just saw a video on TikTok and this girl was like, isn't this expensive for what this is? And it was a vegetable platter, not even like expensive vegetables, literally carrots, some broccoli, some cucumber, little cherry tomatoes. It was a decent sized platter, but it wasn't anything crazy. And that was being charged $45.
You can go to the not just Aldi or Walmart, but if you're in a large enough city, there's a produce terminal, they call it. Maybe it's by the airport, where you can go get a 40-pound case of almost anything. But 40 pounds is a lot of bananas to eat. 40 pounds of any kind of fruits or vegetables is a lot to eat before it goes bad. So it's a good price, though.
For the platter, over double the amount that would used to be. Like a normal platter like that probably would go for about $15 to $20. It's $2.50 for an apple. When you're weighing to get an apple, it's $2.50 per pound for an apple.
I haven't gotten a facial in so long. And when I was in high school, I used to go to this facial place all the time and get, my skin cleaned out. It's been quite a few years since I've actually been to this facial place. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself to a facial. They used to charge me $50 before tax. And I just looked it up now. It was $89 before tax. They're not doing anything more magical. They're now charging me $40+ more for a facial. That's how much it's gone up. We have the most expensive gas prices in the world. We have the most expensive car insurance in the world. Every aspect where you would think maybe I could save some money, you can't save any money. And then on top of that, our rent is one of the most expensive in the world. We're paying millions and millions of dollars for the land. So you could have a broken down, rotting house that's falling apart with rats in it, and you'd be charged millions of dollars for this house just because of the land of it. That's how expensive it is to live in Canada. I'm talking about specifically Vancouver. I don't know if it's like this in other parts of Canada as much, but it is becoming insane. I'm saying if the prices keep going up and the wages aren't going to be going up, then how do you expect us to live? Where are we going to be living? How are people going to pay off their debt? If you have debt, you're basically just going to keep working to pay off the minimum of your debt. You're never going to be able to pay it off. It's not a way to live.
Median rent in the United States currently is $1,967.
But the median hourly rate is $17.02. And you're expected to be able to pay for your rent, let alone other utilities and food and other bills, with $17.02. So make that make sense, because we're obviously not keeping up with cost of living. We're basically being gaslit that we're fine, but we all know we're not fine. And if rent keeps going up, then
that is the thing. It's gaslighting, not even by people like Mark Carney or the manipulators, or if you hear the Federal Reserve or bankers or politicians talk and they're scapegoating. It's not only that they're subtly, I don't think any one of them are brave enough to overtly gaslight. There might only be a smaller, I'm not telling you to work harder. I just hopefully am offering something that might be a way out, that might be something everyone involved might want. But it is just a gaslighty situation, because we're in a time where we have so much and there's so much information, and it seems like we have so many, you might even call it simulations, so many things you can be. We have so many drinks, we have so many phones, we have different ones to choose from, so many apps, so many things to watch, so many groups to belong to, and cars are self-driving. There's a certain aspect that we should be beyond or progressing when it comes to the basics too, but those are obviously getting worse. So to feel that contrast, and also to have the AI, and whether it's taking away your job or not, or you're just seeing it and maybe you just use it and see that it's a better for your training or to satiate your curiosity than Google or instructional YouTube videos, or even still to have that there and feel like you're almost able to break through, like we're about to break through with this stuff, with the things that technology is providing, that to be regressing in this certain way, I think a lot of it's a gaslighty situation. I think it's easier. I think you feel people, the sense that they're more blaming themselves, really, even though they're summing up, they're stating the problem really well.
And we're going to be absolutely screwed and 100% homeless. It feels like we're being treated like a group of kids where the government's like, no, everything's fine. And we're all yelling back, well, we can't afford anything. It's so crucial.
By the way, that what she just said, that it's fine and get with it, loser, get with it, nerds, and like Donald Trump throughout the 80s, and that was kind of an 80s theme, was that there were nerds and there were losers. Like this pressure of inflation and the system that you can't get out of it, there's not a Marxist or critique of capitalism that really gets at the problem, which is the monetary system. But it's always been here, except for maybe the boomers, of course, had it really well. The money situation after World War II really was really easy on everyone who wanted to do the minimum amount of work, could get a home, a car, support wife, kids, pay for college. But soon after that, especially 1971 was not far off after that. And then you had deindustrialization and the vulture capitalists and the onshoring and inshoring of labor. Then there was still a majority of people that it was working well for, the so-called American dream. And those people used to be gaslit that they could make it. But that kind of fell on people who were not as intelligent. The thing about people who are not intelligent that you notice, especially as you get older, like that group of the permanent underclass or permanent poor, which I'm talking about, which we still have, but they used to be the only ones affected by this inflation and bad part of the monetary system, which is now reaching up to touch everybody. It's probably really affecting millionaires too, or people who take home almost $1 million. Camera's out again, but people taking home almost $1 million who live in a big city, they're really feeling the squeeze of this. But what was my point? So yeah, those people, it used to just affect the people who are not intelligent. The thing about people who are not smart, who are the you could call them rednecks, and people who have a redneck lifestyle who are outside of that ethnic group. They are they're not smart because they're not only that they're not smart, but they do dumb things, like they drink, they abuse substances, and they don't challenge themselves. They don't read. Isn't it funny how dumb people will do that? Do things that make them dumber. Whereas someone who is smart will exercise, be in shape, not get blackout wasted, and will keep educating, pushing their mind, kind of like with exercise. Hopefully with this thing I've been talking about here, pushing into new areas, trying new things, taking notes, writing things down, taking notes because they understand the limits of their mind. It's like dumb people think that they can afford to be dumb, when smart people know they cannot afford to be dumb. Anyway, notes go in here as you're taking notes or having conversations with the AI. But yeah, that's another reason why the poor are so screwed up, because they are gaslit like we are being gaslit now.
To have a budget and know everywhere your money is going, where it's coming from, what you're putting your money towards, subscriptions, like all of that. Because I feel like that's the best way to sort of beat out the system and currently survive.
Hey Raf, I'm a teacher and I can barely afford to pay rent with my salary. My salary bi-weekly is basically my rent minus $500. Guess how much my car is? $400. Guess how much insurance is? $100. Oh, yeah, that's right. You do the math. I'm left with owing money at the end of the month. That's not even with groceries. Holy
Be a good time to state again the reason that most people are spending more money than they're taking in is that when the money is counterfeited to a degree that's beyond the amount of assets or work in the economy, like the amount of gold and the value of all of the gold, if the gold constrains the supply of dollars, then there's not new debt being created because that gold is not being loaned out at a rate that is higher than the amount of money, ideally, or in an honest system. You can look at it like Bitcoin, though Bitcoin is not ideal as the currency. You can look over, especially in public companies like all of these Bitcoin treasury companies, if there ever becomes a day where the number of Bitcoin add up to more than 21 million, we will know immediately, and we'll probably be able to find out. Some people on 4chan will be able to figure out which company is creating paper Bitcoin, like paper gold. Point is, when you're creating paper gold, fake money, counterfeit money, money that is not constrained, you're creating more debt than there is money, the way that the monetary system works. And especially in this phase of the monetary system where they have to keep creating more and more debt. So that's why this person and a lot of people are in debt. Even you go to a successful restaurant, if you talk to the owner long enough, they'll start talking about the bank loans. There's simply not enough money to finance and pay off anything. Debt is just, it's something you notice the older you get. It tends to creep in almost everywhere. And it's mathematically impossible for the majority of people to be in the black, as they say.
That's not even with groceries. I realize every single month I am transferring money out of savings into my checking, and I am not.
Stressful,
just had the
gaslighting.
realization in the car that I'm actually gonna go into debt if I continue being a teacher. Like genuinely. Wow. Oh, I'm like literally having a crisis right now. I'm gonna have a panic attack right now. I can't do this. I literally cannot do this.
Gaslighting,
Knowing every single
panic.
month that most of my money is literally like I don't have money. Okay. I don't know how I'm gonna pay off my credit card this month. I don't know. All right. Well, rats, peace and blessings, and I hope
Kids should be apprenticing, offering services, especially when they get into be like teenage years. They're so bored, that's why they drink. Although they're doing less and less of that now.
you can afford your rent today, and groceries, and your car, and insurance, and life. Bye.
How are people surviving financially nowadays?
Debt.
Because me and my husband make decent money. We only have one child. We have regular cars. We're still paying them off, so we have car payments. We live in a decent area, nothing fancy. And I feel like we're constantly struggling. And there's people that make less money than me and us, actually, and they're living wild lives. Like,
Debt.
are people just racking up all this debt?
Yes.
Or am I just doing something really, really, really wrong? Because I feel like I'm always trying to pay something off, or I'm always on a budget. And then student loans are due next month, and nobody's talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Student loans. Student loans are coming due.
how?
All right, so that's it. That was, I've been through everything, covered this. using it, getting certifications, using it in school, depending on your level of feeling of, what's the word, good terms with the workplaces and people offering the certifications, using this to get your certifications, to get that remote work to use during your remote work, and using this with Salesforce has the RAG, using it at winsystem.dev, signing up here, registering, verifying the email, downloading it here. Not too big a file, runs locally, does not do any more than your iPhone, Siri, talking to Alexa. In fact, it does less because I am not a mega corporation. I will not use your data. I will not sell out. I'll just be happy with a few more subscribers. Contact me over here for some new features requested or anything else, anything you want to talk about. And when it comes to the money, if you want to know more about the money, look into the, I don't know if you can find the kind of mid-2010 era of Bitcoin, of cryptocurrency, or the gold people. They're not really around anymore. A lot of the crypto scene is scammers. But this is a cryptocurrency. Only the proof of work, which we talked about earlier, as gold being proof of work, and your work you do at your job is proof of work. By that same token, only a proof of work currency, and these are proof of work blocks, and this got smart contracts. So you can look at these on the Explorer here, and you can look at this more. So this is actually, you didn't think, if I was to go to one of these TikTok people and tell them cryptocurrency was the answer, they would think it was a scam, which is the only thing that it could manifest as during this stage, especially the stage of very low trust and scams. But it's really not going to help you. Not clear if it's a number go up situation, if I can say that this is a number go up type of cryptocurrency. I think it is. But as long as it remains decentralized and secure and has enough users, that's Kaspa again, Kaspa. Might make sense to buy a little bit just in case it catches on. And that is the situation now. So computers might save us. And you want to know what's true? The same with negative entropy in any situation. You are the animal that reduces entropy, that increases intelligence. So stop it with your dooming, your doom and gloom, the political cult figures, the political rag. None of that's going to help your situation. Doesn't matter how true it is, there's no political solution. All that you can do is offer something valuable. The more valuable it is, the more you're going to get resources and the things that you need. So separate yourself from this distorted, dislocated, dying monetary system and look at what people want, reach out to people, make connections, offer them things, and we'll all be good.